other people feel honored and respected. And I think it is one of the most overlooked techniques that we have, is just to make other people feel really heard. So let's try that today. I'm an extrovert, and I sometimes find that particularly difficult, just to put yourself aside and just listen. I'm Nadia Wilczek, and for more information, please go onto my website, nadiaspeaks.com.
The number one question that I get from most adults is, what do I do? The second question that I normally get from adults is, how do I get it done? This made me realize that the number one struggle that most of us have is knowing what to do and how to do it. And I believe the reason for that is because 85% of adults struggle with confidence. My name is Jabu Zwane. I'm a mindset development specialist. I help executives and individuals and organizations to create critical mindsets vital for success. One of the things that I have noted as I talk to clients, even with myself, but also when I'm working with organizations, is that we struggle to figure out what needs to be done. Now, I want you to think about it in this way. If we don't know what we want to achieve, it's very difficult for us to know what needs to be done. So that is the first starting point. One of my spiritual mentors said this to me once: Jabu, I know you're going through a hard time, but you need to have an agenda. And I was like, what do you mean? He says, you know what, there are many things that need to be done in life, but an agenda gives you a list of priorities based on the one thing that you want to achieve. And so he said to me, an agenda will help you to know what activities you have to do, how much of those activities you're going to do, how well must you do them, and of course, it also will help you to figure out the level of fitness that you've got to have. And he explained to me fitness in this way, that these are the energy that is behind what you do, the flexibility behind what you do, the ability to adapt to different terrains and landscapes as you're venturing into what you're trying to do, and of course, to have also that agility to deal with emergencies. Now, these are very clear and very visible aspects of performance. Another thing that I want you to think about is this. There are these visible elements of performance, and then on the other side, there are these 7 invisible C's of performance. And if you don't know how to identify the 7 invisible C's, you are in big trouble. Now, what are they? Before I go into it, let me just recap again. On the one part, there are these things that are very clear. What is conscious? The actual activities, such as the skills that you've got to have, the knowledge that you've got to have. And we can see these as you're performing them. But for you to perform, to achieve the optimal outcomes, you need to be mindful of these 7 invisible C's. The first C is confidence, which is the strong belief in who you are as an individual, but also a strong belief in what you can do. I found that many times where I struggled to do what I know very well to do, it wasn't because of a lack of knowledge or lack of ability, but it was this almost like an invisible power. I can remember this one particular incident back in the day when I was still trying to get in television. Quite interesting that I'm here right now in front of a TV screen. I had an audition and they cued me to speak and I couldn't remember anything. This same feeling hit me quite several years ago when I was doing my first international talk in Lusaka, Zambia, in front of 1,000 people. My mentor from the USA was there and his mentor was also there. And I was supposed to speak for 15 minutes. To date, I still can't remember what happened. I went completely blank. This is what I've learned. I need to have a strong belief in myself and what I can do. Now, the second part of that is character. Now, character is like a moral institution that you have personally. You have to have certain things that you believe in that sort of order your life around. It gives you the boundaries within which you do what you do, especially in business. If you don't have character, you can find yourself doing things that you don't want to do. If you don't have character, it's very difficult for you to stand up for anything because you don't believe in anything. So it's vital for us to have character. So that is the second C. First confidence, then character. Now, the thing about character is that even though you may have it, you still need the third C. And the third C is courage. Sometimes you believe strongly in what you can do. You know who you are. You know your identity. You know what you're all about. And you've got a moral framework that guides what you do, but the stakes are high. Maybe there's a threat in the environment. As you're working, maybe there are challenging times like maybe legislation or even the current economy or even as you see right now with load shedding. What do? Do you cut corners? Do you follow your values? For that, you need courage. And courage is that moral conviction or the motivational moral conviction that you've got to have even as you're doing what you're doing. The third one is, or the fourth one, right? We spoke about confidence. We spoke about character. Spoke about courage. You got to go now into the fourth one. The fourth one now is consistency. This is where the visible elements of your performance start to meet with the invisible. And consistency is the ability to reach that high level of outcome over a certain period of time. My belief is that consistency is the strongest link in the chain of success. That there are certain activities that you've got to do regularly, methodically, strategically, in a systematic way to achieve what you want. The second part of consistency is that discipline. And discipline is that self-accountability, that self-leadership, that when nobody's looking, 2 a.m. in the morning, or maybe by yourself in your office, you continue to do what you're supposed to do. And the last element of consistency is that patience, which is about delaying gratification and understanding that things take time, especially great things. Success can only be achieved over time. Now, with consistency, though, it's crucial to note that if you've peaked, if you've plateaued, you may have to find a different way to continue. You can't continue with the same activities if they're not giving you what you need. And for that, you require creativity. And creativity is that ability to think about what is possible outside of what you know. Creativity, Einstein says, is intelligence having fun. Intelligence having fun. And this is the ability to think about outside of what is known. And that is why creativity is one of those important components, especially in terms of a currency, when you are, and that helps you also to adapt. Because remember earlier on, I mentioned about adaptability. And without creativity, it's very difficult for us to adapt. Now, after creativity, we got to think about collaboration. Because sometimes you find that you're stuck, right? You've been creative, you've been courageous, you have great character, you've been confident, you've been consistent, but now you need to go elsewhere to find more so that you can do more. And that's collaboration. And that's finding people who are like-minded like you. It's about being in spaces that you've not been before, to learn new things, to think about new possibilities, and to get partnership, to leverage what is available to you in terms of the ecosystem of your operation. And that is collaboration. But for collaboration to be successful, this last very important element is crucial, and that is communication, which is the ability to convey your ideas with clarity, with precision, with comprehension for the purpose that you want. And it's difficult for that to go back if you don't have an agenda, going back to my mentor. If you have an agenda, then you know what it is that you need to collaborate with people for. You know what it is that you need to communicate. And I want to close it in this way. Potential is the sum of all performance components working together at their optimal level. The sum of all performance components, what is that? The physical elements that I've spoken about in terms of activities, confidence, character, courage, consistency, creativity, collaboration, and communication. All of them working together at their optimal level, that is the sum total of what your potential is. So your ability to then to have the agenda, to look into the environment, to see what opportunities are available, to create your own opportunities, to figure out what do you need to do and how do you need to do it? Who is there out there to help you? Where else can you go to get additional information, to get more training, to get more understanding? And that is so, so crucial. I hope this has been helpful to you, and to know that outside of your technical knowledge, which is normally predominantly your IQ, you also need to understand that the majority of your performance is trapped in these 7 C's. And if you don't know them, even though you may have clear understanding of what needs to be done, chaos can cripple your ability to achieve what you want.
And of course, I have the privilege now of chatting to Jabu in terms of his 7 C's of high performance. I am loving listening to him, and I'm loving getting my head around all of the 7 and thinking how beautifully he cascaded them and started off with that confidence one, Jabu. But before we go into the 7, please just tell us, how did you come up with these brilliant 7 C's of high performance?
Tough situations.
Your own tough situations.
My own tough situations. I mean, of course, also being a pastor for some time.
Yes.
I noted that a lot of times it's not that people don't always know what to do, but they doubt how to do what they know.
Okay.
And they doubt whether they should get it done. And especially when situations come your way that have to, that you have to navigate, that have certain levels of complexity that you're not used to,
yes.
All of a sudden you start doubting yourself. Hence, I found that confidence actually is the key factor to at least, begin to do what you know you're supposed
yes.
to do, or what you can do.
Yes, okay. So confidence is the first one, and that really would be the cascade of how it all begins, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And, I mean, do you have a little nugget you could share with us? I mean, what is Jabu's way when you are anxious and nervous of just boosting that confidence a little?
It's important to remind yourself of what you've done.
Okay, so
In other
that's
words,
self-remembering.
Yes, I call it collecting evidence on yourself.
Yes.
Have your own portfolio of evidence that you can refer to.
Lovely.
It's crucial to listen to people that give you positive feedback.
Yes, and many of us don't. That's a very good point, is that we actually just don't save that in our brains. We save in what we haven't done well, this inner dialogue, this critique that's going on, and we don't have all of those, the evidence, the portfolio of evidence Jabu was speaking about, and we don't save the compliments. It's just interesting. Obviously, different characters do it in different ways, and that's your next C. But it's interesting that some people just battle to hear compliments and battle to remember how they have been complimented.
And a crucial part of the reason why they do that is because of a lack of identity, which is another important component of confidence.
Right.
What do you know about yourself? What evidence have you got? What are people saying about you? Why is it that it's so easy for you to believe other things versus other things? So it's important to interrogate your own thoughts around what you believe about yourself and how you see yourself.
Yes.
And then start to say, well, I need to change that. And because in terms of what I know, what I've done, that's not true. In terms of people are telling me it's not true. So I need to then align my mind to the positive feedback that I've been getting.
That's it. I would say to people, actually, if you wanted to really save that positive feedback and that portfolio of data, as Jabu so beautifully explains, is journal. Do you often say to people, just journal at the end of the day? What has been the feedback you've got? What are the thoughts you've had about yourself? What could you think about differently? So just not even full sentences, phrases, little diagrams, whatever. It's just to do a brain dump in a journal at the end of the day.
Yeah, I actually believe in reflection. And reflection can be through journaling.
Yes.
It could actually be through you going through your own individual talk. It could actually even be you talking to somebody that you know that's close to you, where you feel safe.
Yes.
So have people around you that you can talk to about your own struggles. And they can say to you, hey, Joni, come on, knock it off. That's not true.
This
is what we know to be true. They can give you perspective.
Exactly.
And so it's crucial, especially, and a lot of those people would be the ones that are quite, that don't let you get away with mediocrity.
That's it, that's it. And actually, I think that's a brilliant idea. I've got what I call a golden tribe around me that give me a really good perspective. People who I take that hard feedback from, the brutal honesty, and I go, yo, that was tough to hear, but I'm so glad I heard that.
Yeah.
And also people who go, Joni, you've forgotten that you did X, Y, Z. So they really give you that wholehearted, I call it the 70,000 foot view, being in that helicopter, looking down and joining the dots. Because sometimes we, in the forest or we under the trees and we don't get that 70,000 foot view. So talking to people is a great way of reflecting. We're coming to the end of this part of the interview, Jabu. So I'd like to ask you the question, out of your 7 C's, which is the one that people battle with the most?
2.
Oh, 2.
Confidence, we've spoken about it. And the big part of that is because, again, we don't know who we are. And then we depend so much on people to tell us who we are. And that's proven. 85% it says in many researches that people struggle with confidence. But the other one is communication.
Okay.
Articulating
your
our
first
ideas.
And your last.
The first and the last. Communicating your ideas with clarity, with proper comprehension for the specific purpose that you are communicating for.
Yep.
But without confidence, it's difficult to do that. But also it's tough to be confident if you don't have an agenda, as I've mentioned, which is a clear direction for your life. Why are you doing the things you're doing? What are you trying to achieve? Who needs it? Why do they need it? What makes you the best person to deliver that? What do you need to do to become that person, to become the best person to deliver that?
Beautiful.
Without that agenda, it's very difficult then to articulate those ideas in a way that can connect to other people.
Yes, I'm going to cut you short here in your communication so that we can have an ad break and come back, because communication is such a big topic. And I've loved the way that Jabu has bookended his 7 C's. So you start with confidence, and then the last C, and of course all the others, the 5 in between, are important. But let's delve more into this communication word. It's such a big topic, and let's look at some hows to be more effective. So we ended our chat talking about communication. It's such a huge topic. I often think about that Greek word that communication comes from, to commune, to bring together. If people aren't actively listening to you and you're talking, there has been no communication. But I'm going to hand over to Jabu in terms of one of the 7 C's for high performance communication. And you were starting to really tell us how that integrates and interlinks so beautifully with confidence.
It absolutely does. Because one of the things about communication is that we communicate from what we believe. That is the premise of our communication. And if we don't communicate from what we don't believe, it creates that incongruence.
True.
And we start tripping over our words, and then we start feeling like we're imposters. So it's vital for us to think, who do I think I am? If I don't think I'm intelligent, I don't engage myself a certain way in certain environments. I will withdraw myself from situations. I will also disengage myself from understanding what I need to understand. Understanding is a crucial element of, again, building that mindset, that thought structure, that richness as far as being able to communicate. So if I don't have a strong understanding of who I am, confidence again, it's tough for me to communicate. If I don't know what builds that confidence, I'm going to communicate again based on my confidence. What if I'm confident in the wrong things? If I'm confident in the wrong things, I'm communicating, I'm not communing. I'm going to miscommunicate. I'm going to create misunderstandings. I may come across beautifully, I may be articulate, but I'm communicating things that are absolutely offline. So that is not very helpful for that commune. So it's crucial, especially if you need the complexity of the next person to know what their highest pain points are.
Yes, absolutely. And communication is not always talking, you know. I'm just thinking about the very last sentence that you said. It's to understand the other person's pain points. So communication is also reading the body language, the active listening, the stopping of the internal dialogue, this wheel going upstairs, because you're not communicating if you're thinking about your answer or your proposal or what you're going to say differently. So beautiful that we look at that. And of course, you also touched on one of your other C's there, is that when you understand your own character and your strengths, you can be more confident, and then you can communicate more effectively. And of course, then you can collaborate with people who are vastly different from you. So that is, I'm finding, is sorely needed in the world, this collaboration. And collaboration with people who think differently, who feel differently, who choose different actions. We have a saying in our family, Jabu, that is less judgment, more compassion. Because the minute you're judging other people because they've said something or they've done something that's really not been kosher, you know, the communication breaks down, the confidence sometimes breaks down, you self-doubting your own character. So it's really important that we are less judgmental. It's not a C.
Yes.
But I'm looking at your beautiful 7 C's. It fits into consistency, it fits into creativity, it fits into courage, perhaps.
I believe, and I always teach this all the time, assume innocence.
Yep.
Which is, don't be judgmental. As opposed to judgment, curiosity.
Yes.
Inquire.
Yes.
Ask questions.
You don't have curiosity. You could add an 8th C here. Curiosity is so important.
Curiosity is part of creativity, actually.
Okay.
If I want the full keynote, and it falls under that creativity.
Okay.
Because you have to venture into other people's territories, ask questions, explore with an intention to discover new things.
Yes,
so it becomes an adventure.
So they're siblings, creativity and curiosity.
Absolutely. They're very, very closely linked.
Yes, very closely linked. I've never thought about that. Thank you.
And then from the point of judgment again, the moment you judge, actually you close yourself from knowing a bit more. And your communication is going to be then limited to your judgment, the frameworks of judgment.
Yes.
Which then makes it difficult for you to grow.
Yes.
So if you think about performance, high performance, it requires constant growth.
Yep.
So if you've locked yourself in with your frameworks of judgment, then you don't get into those territories.
That's true.
And learn the new ways and have the diversity of thought, diversity of skill that you may not necessarily have as you collaborating and needing other people's complicity to your own success.
Yeah, magic. So it's so beautiful. I kind of see this whole pyramid effect, and these 7 C's interlocked because they feed off each other.
Yes.
In so many ways, which is what you just explained.
Absolutely, they're all they're connected.
Yes.
Starting with confidence, ending with communication.
Yes.
Because without confidence, if you have a confidence, you still have to have the character.
Yeah.
So that you know, in terms of my beliefs, I'm not going this way, your own dogma. But then to defend that dogma, you gotta have courage.
Yes.
Because you need to stand up. That's one of the challenges we have in our country with some leadership issues here.
Yes.
It's not a lack of competence, but it's a lack of courage to stand up for what's right, right?
Yep.
And then from there is consistency, and then it's not helpful to be consistent with things that don't get you where you're supposed to go. Then you gotta be creative. And your creativity is limited to your brain, not helpful. You gotta go and collaborate.
Yes.
For collaboration, you need to then be able to communicate. And in communication, I need to know, okay, Johnny, what do you want me to bring for lunch? No, I'm kidding.
And let's discuss that, because we should be having lunch. Jabu, let's I'm really thinking with a viewer in mind, and I'm thinking about how beautifully it rolls off your tongue and these 7 C's build on each other. But I'm thinking if people are not in the realm of being a keynote speaker as you are, and a facilitator and a coach, and designing workshops, and really being, having these intriguing offerings to the market, is the person sitting here listening to you could be thinking, my goodness gracious me, where do I start? It feels a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
Where, what is the tiny habit that we can put in place now to get this ball rolling? Practical tiny habit is what I'm asking.
I'll say go to school on yourself.
Okay.
Start, as you said, start writing down things about yourself that you know. What are you good at? What makes it good? What have you competed against? What is the proven history of what makes me good at the things you're good at?
Start with what you're good at. We're going to have to wrap up the interview.
Yeah.
But I'm going to beat that drum, if you don't mind, because this organ between our ears is an organ of survival. So we're often looking at, where's that lion, and, where am I going to chase to get, some berries or a porcupine to eat? And we are always looking at what we're fearing. So I just want to end on that good point from Jabu, is the 7 C's of high performance is start with what you're good at. Know your strengths. Know actually what you're bringing to the family, bringing to the team that you're working in, bringing to the project that you're initiating, bringing to your community. I think there's a big banner, a big poster, there's a t-shirt in this, Jabu. Start with what you are good at. So thank you, Jabu, and you are the mindset guru, and I've certainly learned a few tricks from you today, and I've appreciated having our chat.
Thank you so much, Joni, for having me. It's been great, it's been wonderful, I enjoyed it.
Great.
All right.